Hi guys, it's Stephanie from Creative Paradise. If you're seeing this live feed, that means that you're in our group, Fusers of CPI. It's a closed group, but we're pretty welcoming. If you know anybody that wants to join, just tell them to ask to join and then answer questions. So we have some group questions that they need to answer, and that is because we want to make sure the people that are in this group actually mean to be in this group, because CPI also stands for Communist Party of India. And so when we first made this, we had a lot of people that were Indian communist in India that wanted to be in the group. And so we also want to make sure we have other things that we do at Creative Paradise. We do ceramics, we do all kinds of stuff. And so this is our Facebook group dedicated to fusers that use CPI molds. And so you don't have to, our only rules in this group is, first, be kind. But secondly, if you post anything that's molded, it needs to be molded in or over or somehow using a Creative Paradise mold. You can put glass projects in, but if they're molded, they need to be molded by with our molds. And so I did a live feed earlier today showing how to use the bale molds. And one of the projects that I did, one of the first ones I did using the glass bale, was this frit slurry ornament, which I've done a lot of slurry live feeds and tutorials and such, but using the frit slurry like this is a little bit detailed. I mean, it's a little different because we're going to use slurry on slurry to create texture and details and have some fun. And so that's what I'm going to be doing right now in this live feed. And this live feed will be saved and tagged to the top of Fusers of CPI. You can see it later. You can share it with other people if they're in the group. Come back and I will be looking up occasionally and looking for questions. And then I will go back. If you see this after it's been recorded, I'm trying to make sure that I'll read questions later. But if you're sure want my attention, you could always tag me as well. Okay, so before we go on too much further, let me talk about some supplies that you might need. First of all, everything that we're using is powdered frit except for a black stringer. We're going to need a black stringer for snowman arms. And we're going to need, you don't need this, well actually you do, but I'm going to throw just a little bit of this dichroic glass frit flakes, rainbow. And it's clear and system 96. All the glass I'm going to be using today is the same COE, and I'm using 96. And so a little bit of this, you don't need much. It's kind of funny, when they first came out with dichroic frit, I thought, oh, what, I want that. Now I love it. And especially because this is dichroic glass frit flakes. And so they're nice and small. And because they're clear, they're going to work whichever way the dichro is facing. And so that, and then you're going to need some plastic cups. These are my favorite. These are little Dixie ones. You can buy them. I get them at Sam's by, you know, a big sleeve of them. I don't really know. Maybe they use these in nursing homes to administer pills, medication, maybe. I don't know. But, or condiments maybe. But they work great. They're a great size. And so you're going to need a Sharpie or something to write on them. I'm not sure where my Sharpie went, but when you create a slurry, you're going to write what the slurry is on the container, because when this dries, you're going to want to, or even when it's not dry, just so that you have an identifier for what the color that's in there, because it could be opaque, it could be transparent, it could be dark blue, could be cobalt, we don't know, but I do because I wrote it on there. And that's a discipline that's hard for me, because if I'm in a hurry and I'm just making slurries, I'll just put, you know, meh. And then I have a stack over there. I'm too embarrassed to show you. It's a pretty good size stack of a bunch of these with dried slurry stacked in like this. Some of them are labeled and some aren't. And so I was thinking someday I might make a project where I take all of my slurries that are unidentified and put them all in a piece of glass. Project for another day. Anyway, identify your slurry in your bottle, in your container. The other thing that you are going to need is a pipette. So these are little plastic pipettes that you can find at art supply places. I usually find it where, there's two places I've found them. One where the watercolor supplies are. Watercolorists use this for something, I'm not sure, but also buy the alcohol inks. So this is the pipette. I've been asked before what size it is. And I think what that means is they make some, as a matter of fact, I have some. They're very tiny up here and very tiny pipettes. They're not exactly ideal because even though it's fine frit, it needs to go through a hole. And so some of those really fine ones don't work very well. And so I cannot tell you exactly what size this is, but it's a very common pipette found near the water color supplies at any arts and crafts place. Another thing so Mary and I did this project with each other, and I don't have her, she's had it at home, but she likes the pipette. Doesn't work as well for her, and I'm going to show you why. Because there's a thing called splooching. That's right, it's a technical term that can happen to you if you're using the pipette. You can get to the bottom of your slurry in the pipette and it can come out in a splatter, and it is frustrating. And so Mary likes it when we put them in. I just bought these bottles actually. This is an applicator bottle that I just picked up in my last trip to Hobby Lobby, and it is Create and Color applicator bottles. It was 3 of them for $1.49, and I like this one a lot. Now the reason I'm pulling that out to you is I have purchased a lot of applicator bottles, and this one I really like. One, the size is just right. If you get the really big ones like the size for mustard and ketchup, that's a lot of slurry. I mean, if you're doing a big class or something like that, maybe, but this is a good size. And so you'll note, I've not identified this yet. Bad girl. So that actually is, oh, I forgot, there's something else I need to be mentioning before we go on to the project. This one is that new green by Oceanside that I love. Not Persian, but the other. It should still be here. Emerald green. It's emerald green, and so I'm going to write that on here. And so if you wanted to, you could write it on a piece of masking tape. That way, if you decide to use this for something else, you can take the masking tape off. And then this is white, which you think that'd be obvious, but white and clear look almost exactly the same in powder. And so there's, so that's the applicator bottles I'm going to be using. You're going to need a glass bail, which you can make, you don't have to have a bail, but for this project, let me go on the other side of the table. This is a bail mold that I used to make the bail that I'm going to use in this project. It is LF267 bail mold by Creative Paradise. And so I made a bail, which I'm going to be using in this project. And paper towels, copious amounts of paper towels. This is one of my favorite things too, a spritzer bottle. So I buy this probably in that same the same area of Hobby Lobby as the watercolor. It's just a nice bottle, and it has it can either mist or it can squirt hard. And I'm going to show you why the squirting hard is kind of good. Funnels, you're going to need funnels, only if you want to fill these bottles. So this is one of the trickiest thing about using these applicator bottles, getting the slurry in the bottle. And so just now, I made slurry and then put it through this funnel into this bottle, and I used my squirters to squirt the slurry down into the bottle. And that's a technique that you can use. But then you can also do this. This is not labeled. This is peacock green opal. And so I'm going to label it peacock green. And then I used that funnel to put this much of the powdered peacock green in there. Then I'm going to use this bottle, which has both mist and a hard spray. And I'm going to it's spraying down it. I wonder if you can see, I hope you can see that. It's a good way because it's hard to get the powder all wet if you're not kind of spraying down in there. And so now I have peacock green slurry in this bottle. And you're almost better off with a little bit too much water than not enough water, because when you invert this bottle, the slurry is going to go to the bottom and the water will come to the top. And so that is how I filled this. I know this seems like a simple thing, but Mary and I struggled. We were on the struggle bus last time we made this project. She wanted white in a bottle. And so, yeah, just trust me. We struggled with it. And so I just figured it out. Yay! Hot dang. And so you've got the bottles, and then that applicator bottle has got, one reason I like it also is it has this, first it has a lid, which is cool. Not sure I'll probably lose the lids. If anybody knows me at all, they know I will lose the lids. I can't take this lid off. So it tapers from big to little. And so the further down I cut it, the bigger my hole's going to be on the end. And so I can make it so it's small, big. You know, if I really want to distribute a lot, which I might on the white one, I'll cut it down lower. If I want to distribute it smaller, I will leave it rather small. So there we go. So you need the frit, the glass. So this is a little bit larger than I normally would do. I cut a 4-inch circle, and I meant to cut a 3.5-inch, but we're going to do a 4-inch. It doesn't. Only reason it matters is I think a 4-inch ornament's a little large, and so 3.5 is what I normally would do. This is just standard thickness, 3 mil clear that I cut a 4-inch circle out of, and then just so that I have an idea of what I'm doing, I put it down on a piece of paper, and I drew, so you're going to need a pencil also. I drew around it, and then I drew a real quick sketch of what I think I'm going to do on this glass. I do this because winging it with slurry on here is hard to do. Once you start putting the glass down, it's best if you have a little bit of a plan in advance. Okay, now, before I start demoing, I wanted to talk about something. I wanted to talk about this amazing tote. So a very good friend of mine and of the glass industry in general is Jameson Schuler. And I got this tote, and I have to tell you, I absolutely love this tote. I got it last Las Vegas trade show, and I have used it, and people have been jealous of it. As a matter of fact, Mary's kind of jealous of it. So I probably should get her one. But it says Sassy and Glassy. And then on this side, it has Jameson's. I'm thinking most of you are probably familiar with Jameson. He has a really big YouTube following, and he's also on Facebook, but his YouTube following is really quite something. And he makes a lot of these decals that are fantastic stained glass patterns. And so they work really well with our molds too. He has done a lot of demos using these, and I have used it in several projects also. It works great on the back side of a lot of our ornaments also. Anyway, Jameson is doing it. His website is www.fusing.shop. So it's fusing.shop, www.fusing, FUSING.SHOP shop. He's got a special right now if you buy $100. Well, two things actually. I noticed that he had a special, I went to his website before I got on here, and he had, I think he gives 20% off if you spend up to $100. And then you get a tote. I don't know if that $100 might be after discount, but I just wanted to give him a shameless plug because he's a friend of mine and he's a good person for our industry. Did you need me? Okay. But Also, he does have a glass bale that you can buy there too. His bale's a little different. It's kind of forward facing. It's very cool. And so you could use it on this project, but I think you would need to glue it on afterwards. But there you go. Jameson Schuler, if you want to be popular like me. I'm just kidding. This is just a cool tote. I've used the holy heck out of it. I really have. I've taken it on trips with me. I've taken it to the gym. And I just feel special. Okay, so there's my Jameson Schuler plug, and you need this tote. All right, so back to the project. So I drew a design that I think I'm going to basically do here, just to give me an idea. And I look at it and I think, okay, I want the snow down here. Let me bring it closer because I don't think you're going to need to see my face. I do miss Mary. She's my go-to gal. She helps me with so many things. Okay, so it just kind of gives me an idea of where my snow's going to be, where my sky's going to be. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my sky. Let me think about this. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm going to, for my sky, I'm going to use pale blue. Oh, I was going to show you how I make slurry in a cup. I will put my powder in, and then you don't have to have the spray going in as intensely. You can, as a matter of fact, baby, don't, because it'll cause the frit to be aerosolized. And so this is, I use a bottle like this to make slurry in a cup also. I can just go to the tap and put water in here, but almost every time I do that, I end up with more water in my slurry than I need. But I like to demonstrate this too, so you can see how much water. It's just enough so that the frit is covered with water, and kind of like the consistency of maybe pancake batter. So there you go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my sky in first. And I'm just going to use this spoon because I'm covering a lot of area. I don't really need to be real precise with the delivery on this. I'm going to, here, let's do this. Kind of gives me an idea of where my sky is going to be. I'm at the shop, guys, so if you hear forklifts and such and people walking in, somebody may have a question for me. So if you give the slurry a shimmy, it will start to fill naturally the space. And then sometimes I like to give my skies a little bit of dark at the top. Just adds a little bit of, I don't know, atmosphere. So this is dark blue transparent that I'm just putting in the top. And these are both transparent colors. See how when you shimmy a little bit, the slurry starts to move? You really kind of want to work on a level surface because the slurry will follow gravity. Looking for any questions? I don't see any. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a paper towel and pat back, take some water out of my slurry, and move the slurry where I want it to be, which is above my snow line. One reason I'm patting this back is because I'm going to be putting the snow in next. And if you have two really wet slurries next to each other, they do what this did, which is kind of feather together naturally. I don't want that. I want to have a crisp horizon line. And so I made my little hill. That's a little bit too much in the middle. Let me move it this way. And maybe give it a little bit of a mound. Now I'm putting the paper towel on top of the slurry to take some of that water off. So now you can see there's really not a lot of sheen, and the slurry, I can even hold it like this. I think eventually if I tap it, this is kind of cool too. See how dry it looks? If I start tapping it, the water kind of comes back into, well, I must have dried too much off. It's not coming out. Sometimes if you do that, the water will come to the surface again, but I dried that nicely. So there's my sky. I can move my picture, my drawing aside. Now I'm going to add my snow. And the snow that I'm going to add is the snow that I made in a cup earlier. And this is just white opal powder. Let's see if I can get you guys even closer. I'm sorry for the tripod leg. I love this tripod, but I wish this leg was facing that way. I don't see any questions. Oops. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing like I did with the sky, but with snow, with white. I'm going to fill the area. And see how the water from here is starting to move into the blue? What I can do is I can use a little bit of the blue from the sky and make the, where you can see the blue from one of the hills. You know how it would look, the hill coming forward might have blue in front, behind it, in front of this hill, just to kind of give definition between your two hills. And so all I did on that was move a little bit of the blue from the sky into the snow. I'm going to give it a little bit of a shimmy. And then I'm going to use the paper towel and just soak some of that up. Don't want to press too much because like this is a pretty inexpensive paper towel, and so it has a texture on it. Viva is a great paper towel with no texture, but it's pretty expensive. And so all I'm doing is removing some of the excess moisture. And the reason I'm doing that is we're going to be adding slurry on top of this. So basically what I've done is I've created a platform of fairly moistureless slurry. And so now when I put a slurry on top of that, it's going to be easier to have some control of the next slurry. See how many times I can say slurry in one thing. All right, so now I'm going to use the bottle to make the snowman. And this is pretty courageous of me. I actually haven't tested this one yet. But I think on this one, so yeah, the bottle doesn't even have a hole at this point. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off a little. And let's see. So I've cut it off so that it's about here. So the hole is probably, 1/8 of an inch. You're going to have to shake your slurry up. Then invert your bottle like this so that the slurry goes to the bottom. And then we will start making our snowman. Yeah, that hole size is about right. Too much smaller and you would have ended up with textured snowman. I have a tendency to make my snowman kind of lean. This guy's on a hill, so maybe he would lean. Can you see this? I'll try and move it this way so you can see. If the more wet this gets, the more loose it's going to get and the more it'll spread. And so if you want to, you can continue, you can come back and blot this off before you go on, which I think I'm going to do. Just trying to even out the slurry on top there. And so it doesn't look exactly like the drawing. As a matter of fact, he's too small. We need him to grow a little bit. I tend to like snowmen with no mouths. I like the scarf covering the mouth. I just think it's a cute look. Plus, I don't really want to have to worry about making the mouth. It would be like little rocks or something, I suppose. Coal, pieces of coal. I wonder who made the first snowman drawing. Things that make you say, Okay, so now this is opaque, and so the snow behind it is transparent. I mean, not snow, the sky. So now I'm going to pat some of that moisture off, because the water will migrate. When I'm putting this wet slurry here, it was staying nice and tight because it was a wet slurry onto a dry one, and so it wasn't spreading. But as you keep going, the water will spread, and eventually at some point it would just become a big mess, basically. Well, I maybe made that snowman a little bit too blobby, but I think he'll work. I think he'll do the job. If I wanted to, I could come in, as a matter of fact, here. You can come in and move it a little bit with something like a skewer or something, and kind of move your slurry. If you want to, you can remove some of it. This happens sometimes, like if you do get a splurch or something, you can just take off some of the slurry, and then you can always put a little bit more blue around it. You know, it's one thing nice about this medium is it's not like watercolor, where if you make a mistake, you just have to start over. That's what my history with watercolor has been anyway. So I'm almost kind of carving at this point, just trying to clean my snowman up a little bit. I'm probably over worrying about it, but I did want to show you that you can if you want to. A Q-tip works nicely also. Okay, so I just cleaned up his edges a little bit because I thought he was a little bit too, let's do this. I'm having a little trouble getting my water bottle back to a spritz. It's wanting to be, there we go. The reason I did that is I didn't want this blue on the end. I want it to smooth out a little bit. Now come back with the paper towel. There, I like that better. So now I have my snowman in here. I've dried him off a little bit. Now I'm going to decorate the snowman before I worry about putting the trees in. You know, I wonder if he should be. I'm going to use my pipette instead of the bottle just because I'm going to try. I think maybe this, I don't like the snowman. I want him to come over the edge of the hill a little bit. I'm not sure that'll even matter, but there we go. All right, now we're going to make little coal buttons. And so I'm going to use my pipette. And I just use the same pipette. I have a container of water handy, and I just clean it out from the last slurry. you don't have to. These things are pretty inexpensive, and so you could just have one dedicated to that color. I'm going to do his hat first, I think. Okay, if I make a mistake here and it splooches, it'll be a learning moment for you. It happens sometimes. And so, see how the frit is here, and then up the top is where water is? I always want to try and stop applying frit until when it gets down to this low, because you won't be paying attention and it'll get down to the bottom and this water will splooch out. And so that's what a splooch is the water that's at the top of your slurry might come out of the pipette and go all over the place. And so just try and watch where your frit is in the pipette. See how much detail you can get in there? It's a nice tight line because the slurry underneath is dry, and so I'm able to put this on, and the water comes out of the slurry, of the wet slurry, getting close to the splooch area. All right, he's got a big hat. It's probably a bigger hat than I was planning, but it'll be okay. And so that's his hat. Now let me go ahead and do, if you want, you don't have to use slurry for your buttons. If you made some dots, like I did these red ones with black, you could use those for eyes and for buttons and all kinds of things. I'm going to put the coal just a little askew, because that's usually what my snowman would look like. So now that I've got my my buttons, my coal, my buttons, my eyes, and I am pretty much done with black. Looking for my water, cleaning out my pipette. Looking, I don't see any questions. All right, so now I'm going to take the water out of the slurry again. Try not to move it around too much, just basically taking most of the moisture out. If I wanted to, I could use a little piece of glass and put it there as a hat band, but I'm going to use slurry just to show you how you can do it. So this is flame opal. Going to have a flame opal hat band, and then I'm going to give him a flame opal scarf. And let's see, what was I planning to do on the scarf? The scarf was going to come over his mouth. And into the sky. Maybe in the wind a little bit. Maybe 2 pieces of scarf, yeah. I think that looks pretty good. What I can do is if I want to make some fringes on that scarf, I can come in with a little tool, a stringer, a skewer, let's use the skewer, and just add some fringes. And if a person wanted to, a person could add stripes or something like that, but I'm not going to do that. Now my 2 parts of the scarf are too close together. I don't like that. I'm scooting one down a little bit. Oops. Okay, so we have our scarf on. Now I'm going to blot the moisture back again. Tempting not to, but if you see how the moisture spread everywhere, that area was dry, but because I put the slurry here, the water just migrated everywhere. And so there. Boy, he has got a major lane. Oh, wow, I didn't even notice. Because I was working on this upside down, I didn't even notice that this mountain is like right here. Dadgummit. Well, that's kind of good that that happened. I'm going to show you how we're going to fix it. I wondered if I was going to regret working upside down. I just thought it would be easier for you to see what was going on. And now I'm going to come in with that pale blue and fill that sky area. Where are you, pale blue? There you are. There's going to be a tree here too, so it's not, you know, it's not life or death if it doesn't match completely the sky, you know, this area, but it should. What you see is what you get. If it looks as thick as the other area, it should be. All right, I got rid of the huge wall of snow he was standing next to. All right. Now I'm going to pat that back before it starts to spread to the red. See how the red's starting to move? All right. Now we've kind of fixed my screw up on the snow mountain, and now I'm going to add some trees. I think maybe I'll put a tree on top here, one here, and then one here. And so the way I'm going to make, oh, I forgot his nose. I have a trick on the nose. You can use the Phoenix Confetti Orange. You could try and pipe one in too. And so what I like to do is use a piece of the confetti and break off something of a carrot shape. I forgot to mention that as a supply, but you don't have to. You can use orange slurry. Oh, this might work. A pair of tweezers. Oh my gosh, that's the largest tweezers ever. Okay, so he has a nose between his eyes. Probably designing it again, I'd make the eyes higher up. What the heck, shall we move his eyes? I guess I could show you how to do that. Ah, says the snowman. Do you guys remember Mr. Bill from the old Saturday Night Live? Kind of reminds me of that. So I'm going to put some white. You can still see a little bit. Let me get a toothpick. Got a Q-tip. I'm just going to try and take, I see some of the black is still on there, so I'm going to try and move my nose again. Take some of that down. Then I'm going to put a little bit of white, just to make sure there's no stray black. I probably could have just used some powdered, I could have done that. Just applied some white powder, not slurry, but we'll do it this way. Okay, his face has no eyes now. Get that nose out of the way. That's amazing to me how that water travels, because that was all dry, but because we put wet slurry there, the water went everywhere. Okay, so now let's put his eyes back. You know, at one point, I did have black dots that I could use for eyes. Aha! This is kind of cool too. So, you know, this stuff, the dichro glass frit flakes, I threw some of these on so the way I make these balls, guys, is I used to take medium grain frit on a piece of thin fire paper or in a dam mold or something and fire it to a full fuse, and it makes these great little balls. And so you can do the same thing with these dichro frit flakes and make little dichroic balls. I haven't done anything with them yet, but I think they're fun. I'll show you one here. If I can get it with my tweezer. It's just kind of fun. I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, I know what my plan was to do. Okay, we'll do that. We'll use those little dichro balls on our Christmas trees on this project. Okay, to find eyeballs, though, I need to find some that are pretty much the same size. There we go. It looks like a couple of eyeballs. We're going to put them a little bit higher up and closer together. Oh, not there. I'm going to go ahead and push it down a little bit so that it stays in place when I move it to the kiln. I probably could add a little bit of hairspray also if I wanted to. Okay, so this guy's got little beady eyes. I kind of like that look. So he's got little frit ball eyes, a little bit. I just want to make sure there's enough distance between the eyes and the hat. And then I'm going to put that little piece of confetti back for his nose. Let's see, do I like this shape? I'm actually trying to use a scissor to shape my confetti. Kind of worked. Oh, it landed just where it's supposed to. I lucked out on that one. So there we go. We've got a confetti nose, black frit ball eyes. And now we'll put his arms on after we put the trees in, because the trees his arms might be over the trees. Okay. Ooh, my eye moved. Stay. Okay, so to make the trees, I'm going to use the emerald green and the peacock green. I think my forward tree I'm going to make peacock because it's a little bit lighter colored, and my back trees are going to be this emerald green. And so I have cut this one so that the hole is maybe just a little bit smaller than the hole on the snowman, because I want a little bit more control of this. Let's see, I'm going to put this is the emerald, which is the background tree. Let's put one here. And so this is kind of fun. It's like icing. It's going to end up covering that whole mountain that I took the trouble of making. It's a little bit wet. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm not getting as much control as I would had the background slurry been completely dry. The drier your background slurry is, you can even just drop frit and it'll make little balls, because the water just sucks right out of the slurry and leaves a ball there. So you can use a pipette to do this instead of the bottle. It's just really a matter of choice. I do think that most people, when they first start doing it, they probably will prefer a bottle because of it's harder to make a mistake with the end of the water, you know, the water coming out accidentally when you have this much in a bottle. Okay, there's one tree. I think I'll put another tree of this color over here. Let me see if I can do this upside down so you can see. I think I'm going to demonstrate what it would be like with the pipette. And I'm just going to use the slurry that's in here and my pipette that I just used the white. So I need to wipe it out, squirt the water, you know, fill it with water, squirt it out, get the old slurry out. So now I have my pipette full of the emerald green. I might, I'm not going to do it right now, but I might demo a splooch. I might accidentally demo one, but just to show you what happens. If you see, I'm getting kind of close to the end of my pipette. If I don't pay attention and I keep going, it's going to get to a spot where the water is going to come out dramatically and violently all over the rest of the slurry that's already down. Violently, I say. I love to make pine trees. I like to draw them, I like to paint them, I like to make them with slurry. Okay, so that is that. I think maybe it's my preference on something like this to use a pipette, but I can see why some people would like to use the bottle. It's possible that I've got that end of that bottle cut off too far down too. It might be too big so that I'm getting too much water. I got the lid off. So here's this one. I'm going to try and cut this one so that I have the smallest hole possible. So I'm going to, if you can see the end, you can see where, maybe if I tilt it like this, you can see right there at the end, it's not even open. And so you have to cut it one way or the other. And I'm going to try and cut it right where the plastic stops to make the smallest hole that I can. And so that should be a hole. Yeah, it is. Okay. Let's see how that works. Got to make sure to shake it up, and you want to make sure to shake it kind of like this so that the slurry is at the bottom and not the water. I don't know, guys. I think that I like the pipette better. Let me show you. So this is what this comes out like. It's pretty wet as opposed to here. I'm just going to do the same thing where I'm filling this with, I don't know if this will be a good demo or not, but oh, there's a little bit of water on the ground. Do you see that? And so I don't think I'm team bottle on these detailed, like the trees and that. I don't think, but for the big areas like the snow and the hat and that, I could see how a bottle would be handy. And, you know, some people are going to like delivering it one way and some are going to like the other. I think I'm team pipette. Mary's team bottle. And so the controversy continues. I do have some different bottles with smaller tips, and so maybe that would be it. Okay, where's this tree going to be? I better turn it around. Maybe forward. Oh, he's kind of small. I didn't design the tree spaces very well because it would cover his scarf, and we don't want that. Oops, see what happened, guys? I just did a splooch. So you got to see a splooch, and you know why that happened? I wasn't paying attention to the end of my pipette. And so to fix the splooch, what you have to do is take the moisture out. It depends on how bad your splooch is. And so this is what happened, is it spread everywhere. I could scrape slurry off and reapply, or I could just put white over here where it kind of went where I didn't want it to. See, probably should have been using the bottle. All right, I'm gonna just cover that area with white. It's funny how it really doesn't look much at all like my drawing. So I applied white where the splooch happened to cover it. You can still see a little, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. Now I think what I'm going to do, I think I might flock these trees. I don't think yeah, I did on this one. So I had some flocking on these. I'm going to, well, let me see. I think I need to redefine this tree a little bit. Getting close to the bottom of the pipette, see that? If I go too much further, I probably will get a splooch. Okay. Going to use the same pipette, going to water, clean that color out. And then I'm going to go, let me make sure that my slurries are, oh, look how wet that was. Boo-boo. I did something stupid. I was trying to cut a teeny tiny square of glass, and I tried to break it with my hand instead of a grozier or a, I don't know, sometimes. Okay, so let me see if there's any questions. I do not see any. Do not see any. Don't see any. Don't see any. Oh, what's that? No. Okay. Onward and upward. I'm going to flock these trees. I'm going to use the pipette because I think I'm disciplined and I can remember to stop squeezing when I get to the bottom. I could try and use, for the heck of it, let's do a demo. Here's the bottle. And this bottle end is probably pretty big because this is the one that I used on the snowman. Let's go ahead. This area of the slurry is very, yeah, so it's kind of big. I don't really like that. It worked for making, putting the snowman in, but it didn't work so well for something fine like this. And so I'm going to, I guess I already had white in there, didn't I? I'm going to load my pipette, let it sit for a minute so that the water's at the top. Then I'm going to, because this slurry is so dry that's underneath, see, you could even make little peaks like meringue. If it's too dry, you could use a spritz, your bottle and spritz if you want a little bit moisture on that slurry below. Oh, I'm getting kind of close to the bottom of the pipette. Probably should stop. Okay, so I could I've probably put a little bit of water in this slurry because that's the water spread over here. And so you just need to watch when you're doing things. If it seems like the slurry below is too wet, you need to stop and pat back your slurry. That one doesn't bother me so much because it's kind of a distant tree. I didn't need it to be as defined as this one. Some of these are a little too clumpy. Okay, so now I can decorate my trees. I can use some of these pre-made round red frit balls. Maybe, do I decorate them all or just one? I used flame and I used regular red opal, and so some of these balls are going to be a little different color than others. These are going to roll on you as you walk to the kiln, and so you probably want to either spritz the whole thing with some spray paint, some hairspray. Be careful with that, because if you put too much of the liquid hairspray in, it will spread the slurry all over. I pretty rarely do a live feed like this because I worry that I'm taking too much time, and that, but I figure if you get bored or you don't want to watch, you can leave. And if you want to watch, you can. You can always come back and watch again. But I just thought it would be kind of fun to share this whole process. Don't know that I've ever actually done a project from top to bottom. Yeah, I have. It's just been a while. And if you wanted to, you could have made a whole bunch of different colors of little balls to add to your trees. This is a big one. If you like more colorful trees, you could have done that too. You could also add some just frit. But I thought these, since I have these red ornaments laying around, might as well use them. Red ornaments, red balls. Ooh. Had a runner. Okay, ornaments. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit. Let's see, let's do a couple things. I'm going to add a little bit of white opal fine into the sky to be snow falling. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I need to add a little bit of snow onto his hat. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the fine snow forward so that it adds some dimension. You can tell that this snow is closer to you than the other snow is. I don't know if you can see that here. It just adds a little bit of dimension. I was listening to Christmas music earlier, which is the first time this year I've done that. I would have it playing, but I think it's all copyright problems. Don't want to get any trouble. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm using my pipette. I'm going to add some snow to the Santa's hat. And let's see, scarf a little bit. And so if the snow had fallen on this guy, I think it would gather here. Maybe here. Maybe a drip here. Maybe a little bit on top. And then on his scarf, I think it would gather on his scarf a little bit. There, that's cute. Now I'm going to add a little bit of dichro flake flits. Dichro flake flits. Oh, pinch and that forward snow. And then maybe a little bit in the trees, just a little. Oh. There we go. All right. I think he's pretty much done. And so now what I'm going to do, I made a bale earlier using the LF267 Creative Paradise bale mold. What did I do with said bale? I just brought it. Oh, here he is. I'm going to put this in my kiln, on a kiln shelf. And I'm going to put the bale over like this. And then I'm going to fire it so that it's just at attack fire, maybe a tiny bit more than attack fire, because you can see that the shoulders on this kind of rounded here. And so it was probably a little bit more than attack fire, but not much. The danger being your hole can close if you go too hot, because it will just become one blob if you fire too hot. And so I'm going to fire it hot enough so that the slurry will cure, will become shiny. It'll still have a little bit of dimension. Oh, I forgot his arms. And I'm going to make sure that you have the thin fire papers all the way under the glass. Oh, we forgot our arms. I have a tendency to make my snowmen look like music orchestra leaders. I could have done that with slurry, but it's a little tricky. I'm gonna put a little so it looks like his hand. That's the twig, you know. Twig coming off the stick. Could have used brown stringer. I just used a scissor to cut off a piece of stringer. All right, there we go. Yeah. Yep. Maybe that arm needs it a little bit further down. Trying to push that stringer down into the slurry below so it'll stop moving. There we go. There you go. So here's the slurry snowman with Christmas tree ornament project that was also in your tutorial that you should have in your inbox. I could also put this bale underneath. Maybe I will, just to demonstrate what it would be like to be underneath. I'm going to fire this one underneath so you can see the difference. This one was fired over, this one will be fired underneath, and so probably what's going to happen is it's going to create a little bit of a bulge here, but I don't know that it's going to really matter. So there you go. That took a minute, didn't it? All right, guys. I hope everybody's ready for Thanksgiving. I hope that those of you that are cooking have defrosted your birds. It's funny, just yesterday I was talking to Janet and I said the turkey's actually not that hard. It's remembering to defrost it. That's the hard part. I'll stick this in the kiln along with some of the bales and other projects that I made in an earlier live feed. And I will show you what it looks like after we've all gained at least 10-15 pounds over the weekend. That's the goal anyway. Have a happy holiday, guys. Take care.